Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello, everybody. It's your host, Lynda Lippin, and welcome back once again to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Today's interview is one that I've been very excited about. As you know, I am all about all of us getting as much knowledge and information in being successful in our businesses and how other people have started their businesses, work through adversity, what's important, what's not important. And, sometimes we hear from other Pilates teachers or other business coaches, and we're not quite sure who they are, what their backgrounds are. Have they really done any of the things that they are talking about? But today's guest has actually done what she talks about and has written a book about that. And we are going to be talking today to Karen Pudetti. Now, Karen is a mom first. Okay, she has two daughters, and she used to be an accountant. She graduated with an accounting degree, and she worked for CPA firms and Fortune 500 companies prior to starting her own business, Luxe Salon, Spa, and Laser Center in the beauty industry. Now, as we know, a lot of Pilates teachers have come into Pilates from other industries at different times in their lives. So we will be talking about what that shift looks like. Now, with her financial background and the success she had with Luxe, she started consulting with salons and spas across the U.S. She is an expert at taking unprofitable businesses and turning them around to be profitable. And she deals with business plans, programs, and systems that can help take your company to the next level. And as a coach, her goals are always to inspire people to become savvy business owners and empowering leaders so that her clients become personally and professionally successful and see not just monetary profits grow, but life profits grow. This year, she also launched a clothing line, BA Badass. Love it. And Badass was created to showcase that everyone can be their own badass. One of Karen's daughters has ADHD. Her younger daughter, who has dreams of becoming a veterinarian. And as we know, with ADHD, you often can't sit still. Your attention is in other places. And Badass was brought to life to show her daughters that women can do anything they put their minds to. And the proceeds from the clothing line go towards a foundation that provides funding for non-conventional schooling, such as cosmetology, vet tech, or even licensed practical nursing, as ways of giving folks with severe ADHD a path to a viable and happy and profitable future. Now, Karen's also written a book, and her book is called Rags to Riches. And in this book, she gives us the business behind beauty icons. And as she says, 6 ways to get the skills to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today with you.
Yes. So let's first just start with making that shift from corporate accounting to the beauty industry.
Okay. So I started out in the CPA world, and then I was like, I don't really like this. So then I went into corporate America, and I kept realizing that there was 2 things. One, I needed to be my own boss. And I actually at 19, I kind of knew I needed to work for myself, be my own boss. I wanted to call the shots. And then I kept gravitating back to the beauty industry. My mom, when we were little, my sisters and I, she taught modeling when that was such a thing. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and so we went one day to work with her, and they were doing runway work, they were shooting commercials, and all the models had their hair done, their makeup done, and they just looked glamorous. I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I just kept looking at them. And so then they took my sisters and I and did our makeup and our hair. We had some pictures done. And I just remember thinking, wow, I look kind of really good. I was like shocked. And I remember feeling so confident. And I saw that in my sisters as well. And it was like we all of a sudden became these little mini rock stars. And I remember just the way I felt inside, how I, portrayed myself. And I thought, that's an amazing feeling. So I always kind of went back to that. And then it was the reason I decided like the beauty industry is where I want to be, because you want to help people look good, but also more importantly, feel good on the inside out, and to give them confidence. So as I started getting into the beauty industry itself, I kept thinking, yeah, this is something I love to do. So that's how it switched. I will say, when I went and told my parents I was leaving this amazing job, making more money than all my friends were, to go into the beauty industry, my mom, you could just see all the blood drain out of her face. She put pure white. And I'm like, Mom, don't worry, it will be fine.
And it was.
It was the best decision I ever made. I never looked back. I never regretted it. Yeah. And, in our industry, when you're the boss, no one tells you how much you can make or what raise you can have or what you can and can't do. And I like that. I mean, I really loved being the leader. I love knowing that, my efforts will pay off. So I love that.
Now, obviously, there had to be some skill acquisition and changing when you moved into that industry. And, I'm hearing quite a bit from women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s and love Pilates, who are thinking about, getting certified and going into the Pilates business. And of course, it's a chunk of time and a chunk of money and a chunk of effort. Now, when you decided to go into the beauty industry, how long did it take you, and what new skills did you need to acquire?
Well, I actually kind of wrote out a roadmap. So I knew my goals. I had long-term goals and, short-term. So I wrote out my goals by the end of the year, 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. So I knew what they were. So when you put them on paper, you have to get really clear. And then I started bullet pointing, how am I going to get there? So my first thing that I did was I went and looked at the schools, and I knew that I wanted to get my electrolysis certification. So I started that. Then I went to waxing. Then I went to aesthetics. Then later I got my laser certification. So I had written all these out. Now, in hindsight, I should have done cosmetology, but I'm terrible at hair. Terrible. But I should have went and got education, even though I'm terrible at it. But I didn't. So I did all those. And then I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I actually started right in my house at first, because I could be home with my daughter. I had someone right there in the house, so if I was with clients, separate entrance and everything like that, there was somebody with her. And so for me, that worked, because I wanted to make my own money, but I wanted to be home all the time. And I only worked 2.5 days. So I started doing that. And I did that for, many years, and it was perfect. The whole setup was I couldn't have made it more ideal, but I really worked towards that. And then what happened was my clientele had grown to the point, it's too much. I really now need to have a separate home and a separate, workspace. But it was phenomenal. My daughter, all my clients, she just said, when are my friends coming and stuff like that. So it was perfect when it was like that. So I started making a plan of how am I going to take this out of the house. Again, I didn't really want to work full time at that point. How could I do something? And so I ended up buying a small spa. And again, there was 8 people at the time. I did not realize it was going bankrupt. Thankfully, I bought an asset sale, so I didn't buy any of her liabilities
Oh,
or
good.
anything of that nature. And so when I took over, I really needed to make some big changes like instantly, or there would be no more. And so I went in, I talked to the staff, explained the situation. I just said, if we want to be here in a year, we're going to make changes. And at first they were pretty leery of me, rightfully so. They're like, who is she? What is she doing? But they realized like I was there and I wanted to save the spa as well and get them to the next level. And so we all worked hard together. And by that year, we turned a profit over $200,000. So once I could show them that and they saw the changes, it was very like they knew like I had their best interests. And so we went from there. And that was key. That was key that I let them in, explained to them really what was going on. Because if I had tried to make those changes without them understanding, that would have just been a disaster.
Right. Now, I want to kind of touch on something because you talked about writing everything down.
Yes.
Writing down the goals, identifying what you needed, doing the bullet points, doing a timeline, figuring out everything that you needed to get you to that goal, how you could do it, when you could do it, what the best schools were, what the best options were. About how long did that take you in terms of time and research?
The goals, I kind of knew what I really wanted. So the goals were easy. And for anybody starting any business, these are the fundamentals of taking a business from fruition to getting it started to making it profitable. So it doesn't matter if it's a salon, a spa, it could be any business. So I wanted to do a business plan, because if you don't have a business plan, you're just running in circles and you're not being very focused or structured. So I started it, and it probably took me, but I started taking steps too. So when I decided I was going to do this, I immediately went and figured out my education, what I was going to need, when it was going to be due to take it, how much. And then as I kept moving forward, I continued to build on the business plan. Like some things I was like, for instance, should I do just aesthetics or cosmetology? Well, I'm terrible at hair. That would be silly. I did aesthetics, so you just keep making it, defining it more and more and more. And anytime that you came to a part where you're like, I'm not sure, this seems to be a struggle, it's like, okay, you need to put on your thinking cap. How are you going to turn that struggle into something that's going to be beneficial? How are you going to get around it? Whose help do you need? Do you need extra money to invest in something? So it's funny. It's a continual thing.
Right. It's not really a linear.
No, even now, like I have business and I can't keep them all. I have every year I've put it, like I write out what my goals are for the year, and usually 2 years, 3 years. And every year I put it in my folder at the end of the year, because then I love to go back and say, we did this, we did this, we did this. So yeah, the business plan is first and foremost, because it will help you look in advance and really help you kind of figure out what's going to be a stumbling block or what isn't.
Right. Now, it is amazing that you were able to walk in there and turn a 6-figure profit in year one, especially walking into a business that was sinking.
Yes.
And with staff who weren't quite sure who you were or what exactly was going on. and had clearly, not been communicated well to prior.
No, they were a little shocked. They actually probably were, they were more than shocked. They were stunned. They had no idea. And actually the previous owner was dangling a trip to France if they sold so much product. And I'm like, you can't even afford a trip to, the town next to us. So, yeah.
Right. Now, did you manage to keep most of the staff?
I kept all of them.
Wow.
And in part of doing that, like their pay, they were paid hourly, and generally in our world, we're paid commission, but they had an hourly, and so their mindset was very, very different. So that was one thing I changed for them. And at first, of course, they didn't want that. They wanted the guarantee money. But as I showed them like how we can, increase some prices, we can stop doing things that weren't even making us any money, but it was too expensive. As I kept showing them that, and them doing more and doing things differently, they saw their paycheck go up. And so when I first went into them, I had it laid out where what they're doing now, how much they're making, what would be the easiest part for them to hit. Like, these are your, goals, and you're going to make more money. And these are your stretch goals where you're going to double your money. So I went in showing them that. And they were like, first, of course, they're like, what? No, I want it just my hourly. I'm like, no, you guys want to make more money.
Yeah. Now let's kind of talk about that for a second, because it's the same thing in the Pilates and fitness world, right? Where everybody is just used to getting paid hourly. And when I look at what those rates are, generally from teachers in my group and, from other Facebook groups that I'm in and whatever else, what I'm seeing is that, starting hourly pay wise, people are getting paid the same or less as I was paying people in my studios 25 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yes, you see that all the time. Yeah.
So, it's kind of interesting to me that people in our industries kind of settle.
Yeah, they don't settle
so many ways.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I find when you give people when you can show them how much more they can make just by doing a few things differently, then the light bulb starts going off. And once that light bulb goes off and they see, wow, I could really like double my income, now it becomes a game and a challenge to them. So for each one of people who ever worked for me, they do a recap at the end of every day. So they'll write down, how many services they did, what their retail was, how many upgrades they did. And if you do that for even in your, the fitness industry, how many classes, how many people were in your classes, how many people brought a friend in your classes. For everyone who brings a friend, that's an add-on or like that. They start playing that game, and that's when people really kind of get hooked to their numbers and their pay, their pay as well. So I do think when you can do that for people, it's a huge difference in their performance.
Right. Now, do you find that really knowing the numbers is just non-negotiable?
Yes, absolutely. 110%. First of all, if you don't know your numbers, like someone will come in to me and say, I want a raise. And I'll say, okay, why do you think you deserve a raise? Well, I come to work every day. I'm on time. I'm in uniform. Okay. And then I'll pull out the numbers, and they know. I mean, everyone knows. You're going to come to me and we're going to look at your numbers. What is your increase from month to month? What's your rebooking rate? What's your average service ticket? We look at everything at the numbers. And unless they're hitting goals that we've already pre-established, they're not getting a
Okay.
raise. So they know the numbers will, and as it should be, because like in my life, if I want to buy a brand new car, if I look at my numbers and I don't have the money, well, that's easy. I can't buy a brand new car. And I
Right.
explain that to them. And it's funny, younger people today, I think, have a lot of, they have a hard time grasping that sometimes. So what I've actually done with my younger people or even older people, and anyone who comes to me and works for me, I have a whole packet. It's like 20 pages. And it's about them getting really in touch with their own finances. What are all your bills? When do all your bills have to be paid? What is your break even point? What is your, retirement? What is your emergency money? And they look at me like I'm crazy, but then once they go through the class, they're not, they're not spending as foolishly, let's say. And they'll make better decisions. And I think it's helped them a lot.
Now, in terms of growing and moving forward, a lot of folks, at least what happens in the fitness industry is, the traditional path, say, of a Pilates teacher, right, is you do Pilates, you love it. You say, oh, I can do this and make money. And then at that point, usually you go into some kind of teacher training program, right? It might be the program at your home studio that you've been doing Pilates at, right? Which is really what I always encourage. I'm like, if that's the place you love and that's the place you've had good results, and why wouldn't you want to do your training there? You can still do continuing ed. You can still go do whatever you want after, but why not? And then after that, at this point, there really isn't a lot of path. Essentially, the way it goes is you work for somebody else, usually hourly. You try to see as many clients as you can until you max out the hours that you can physically do.
Right.
Or you get sick, or you get injured, or something else happens. And then you basically reach a point where you have to sit there and think, do I want to continue doing this in this way? Do I want to go do my own thing? Do I want to specialize? Do I want to niche in? Now, I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about the kind of niching in. I don't know if you've looked at any of my stuff, but I'm very clear, like on my website with my target audience. It's strong bones, it's women over 50 with osteoporosis and chronic pain, or, Pilates teachers who are needing help with education and have questions about teaching different levels of client. I have found that since I did that, the majority of new clients that I get now are fabulous because they want exactly what I have to offer. They're happy to pay for the expertise.
Yeah.
And they're not a giant pain in my ass, basically. They're just happy to be here.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that is the number one thing that if you're going to be successful, you got to figure out for yourself. And you're 100% right. One of my chapters is all about a niche, because what my niche is different than, say I was doing hair. The person who's going to be attracted to me is going to be different than a coworker who's 25 and has blue streaks. So, and they say the more you can figure out your niche, who you really dial down to, the more successful you will be. And there's a whole chapter again in the book about it, and it's huge. And every one of my beauty icons said the exact same thing. You won't be as successful. You won't make as much money. You won't love your job, and you won't have the people that you should have until you figure out who your true niche is. And when you do find that, that's when people will really find you. They're gonna be looking for someone like you. And that's when then so that is 100% perfect and right. And I think everybody should do that. Because again, my niche versus somebody else's niche is totally different. We're all in the same industry, whether it be Pilates or beauty, but our niche is totally, totally different. And you never want to market to everyone because you'll get no one. So, when you know who you are, what you're all about, that's when people are going to find you. And then those who find you are going to praise and talk about you so more people find you. So, yeah.
Right. I was thinking the same thing too when you were talking about not going for the cosmetology.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you could have done that and maybe not done a great job.
Yes.
Not done great hair, not done, whatever. And then you would have been unhappy. Your clients would have been unhappy and things could have potentially gone south there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the most important principles to whatever business you're in is to finding your niche and people get scared. They're like, oh, but if I do that, I'm going to lose everybody. No, you're not really gaining anybody because no one can figure out what it is that you're all about.
Right. And we've seen like Anastasia's brow stuff, right? All over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking brows.
Yeah.
Just a specialty in brows. Now, for me, I've never really been able to deal with my brows. So when I find somebody who's got the brow gift,
mm-hmm.
I am grateful.
Yeah. I know.
Right. For finding that person with the gift. And do I expect that the woman who does my mani-pedis is going to necessarily be great at doing my brows? No, I don't.
No, and you want someone who specializes always.
Right. So that's the thing. And, I try to explain this to the Pilates teachers who I work with as well. You can see the same thing in medicine.
Yes.
Right. Where your general practitioners or a general surgeon, do you want to go to a general surgeon? I just had meniscus repair surgery like 5 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'm doing extremely well. But the guy that I go to is sports medicine, Mount Sinai, and only does knees. That's all he does all day, all the time, knees. So I wouldn't have gone to a general surgeon for that. And in fact, when I said to him, because I've got arthritis, everywhere, as one does after a certain time, I said, so, I'm probably going to need a hip consult, like at some point in the next decade. And he was like, and he gave me the names of the people who do hips because he's like, I don't do hips.
Yeah.
And I was happy to have that. Yeah. I've also seen it in the Pilates world where, I used to specialize in diastasis recti repair, not really repair, but, living with it and doing well with it. I'm in Lower Manhattan in the Tribeca neighborhood, which is full of large families, because we've got Wall Street down here, more and more housing. I think now it's the Tribeca is the most expensive zip code in New York.
Wow.
And I would get, all of these women just coming to me for handling their diastasis recti. That was their thing. But some of them told me, Karen, that they had gone to other studios where they had called or emailed, were very clear as to what their issue was, were very clear that they needed somebody who specialized in that, and walked into sessions with people who were like, what? You have what?
Yeah.
And had no idea.
Yeah. And that is pretty common. And it's very unfortunate. Obviously. So yeah, when you become known for something, I mean, people will find you. So I know it sounds scary to people starting out, but you figure out what you're the best at and people will look for that and find you.
Right. Now, when you say you go to do hiring for your spa, I'm going to bet, I could be wrong, but I'm going to bet that when you do your hiring, you're also looking for those niched in practitioners, right? Because you might have a specific goal or client need. I do hiring for some studios outside of the US. And a lot of times they'll say to me, the teacher who's leaving specializes in this and is certified by these people. So what I'm really looking for is somebody to replace this. So then when I go into my search, I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know exactly what questions to ask. And I'll often get teachers who are like, but I'm really fabulous in all of these other things.
Mm-hmm.
And for that position, I'm like, but I'm sorry. And I will keep your CV for when we need a teacher for those other things. But right now I need this. Do you find the same thing happens with you?
Yes. So with hiring, like for instance, right now we need somebody, we have 2 girls who do eyelash extensions, and we need another person because they're just totally always booked. If one goes on vacation, it's just, we definitely just need somebody. So we're looking for that. So when people come, they'll say, well, I want to do aesthetics. I want to do nails. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I say, well, right now, what I'm definitely looking for is someone who enjoys and loves doing eyelashes. And that may include like, the eyelash lifts and the tints and stuff like that. But it's all about the eyes and stuff. And they're like, well, I like it, but I really like, and it's immediate no. As somebody who gets excited about it, yes. And then, so there's the first part, finding the right person that is okay with specializing, because we have found that when you specialize in something and word gets out there and you have your pictures and your Instagram and stuff, you can build really fast, as opposed to trying to do a lot of things. Now, what happens is, these clients end up loving, say they're doing eyelashes. And one.
We're back. Okay, we're back.
So what we'll do is say, okay, so that's what we need, is somebody do all eyes. And then the next thing is, I'm going to tell them that we work based on our numbers. We'll educate you. We'll give you all the education you need, so you're doing phenomenal. But just so you understand, we're going to look at your numbers every week. Now, for instance, if you're seeing, say 10 clients a week and 2 are rebooking, I need to know why, because there's something missing there. And we need to make sure they're coming back and they're scheduled for you. So I let them know right up front about that as well. And so some people either love it. Those who want to make a lot of money, love it. Those who are going to be held accountable and they don't really want to be held accountable, they're not going to like it.
Right. So it really kind of depends on what mindset they are coming in with.
Absolutely.
But I have also found in even for myself in the Pilates world that people, as you work your way up, and at this point, like I just took a part-time position as a master teacher at a studio here in New York, but she was really happy that I specialize. Yes. And in fact, the first client who I saw in the studio was a woman over 60 with osteoporosis and a disc herniation in her back. So, that was right up my alley, but it was like, boom, now we know exactly like who Lynda can work with and what that's going to look like for us. Now, can I see everybody? Of course I can. I mean, I can be a generalist, but I find that most of my colleagues and most of the folks who, are owning studios or spas or managing, I worked for Como Shambhala for years as well, is if you specialize, they know you can generalize.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
If you specialize, you can generalize. So if you come in and you're like, no, I work with these people and this is what I do, you can also teach a mat class to people who walk in who want a basic introduction to Pilates.
Yes.
Right. You're going to be fine. So it's really just a matter of kind of continuing the training and knowing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think, for most practitioners, that's, that can be really scary because you're trying to own a space in your niche and even if you're working for somebody else.
Yes, it is scary. And I've seen this over and over again. It is. And I tell people, what's the worst thing that can happen if you just try and really find your niche where people are now looking for you? Just try it. If it doesn't work out like you think, then you could go back, step back a little bit. But every time somebody does it, it's more rewarding. They're working with the type of people they want. The people who are going to them love them, and that's their person.
Right. Now, in your book, you do, after each story, and every story is a little bit different. And again, it's somebody niching in a little bit more or a little differently. And I love the way you have folks tell their origin stories as well. But what I love is how at the end of each chapter, you give the business action items that come out of that story. Here's what's important about that. And if you're following this, these are the action steps that you need to take. And for the Pilates teachers who are listening or the personal trainers who are listening, the action items are really not beauty specific at all. They are really specific to any personal service business and, probably to any small business, period, end of discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my industry is the beauty industry, but really, the P&L, branding, marketing, all of it is generic of really how to run a business, how to take it from the startup to 100,000 to $500,000 to $1 million. So it's the basics. I won't say the basics, but the backbone to any business. It talks about leadership, communication. So yeah, it does. And the one thing I really wanted was I wanted a story about the beauty icons who made it big, but how they got there. Then there's an assessment to see where you are. Mm-hmm. And then the next is like the teaching portion of it. What do you need to do to go to the next level? And that is one thing I wanted to make sure that like anybody could pick up the book, and it's a good read, and it's got a lot of stories and points, but it can take any business to the next level. And that was one of the things that was really important to me. And
it worked.
Yeah.
And it worked. So, Karen, where can people best get in touch with you?
Well, you can always email me at Karen or K Pudetti, Pudetti at luxespa.com. You can find the book, www.iconicriches.com, Rags to Riches. The book is also on Amazon. And what I did is I took the book and actually made it a course. So it's a module course, and it will walk you through, because I wanted to make sure that everything I've put into my business or other businesses, I could give somebody all of what I've done. My marketing calendar, my branding techniques, everything's in there.
Great.
And so that's Rags to Riches in action.
Wonderful. And of course, as always, all of the links will be in the show notes so that you can easily get in touch with Karen, because Karen also does coaching, right? So you can always hire her and have her just come in and do it for you, and help you do it. Or, buy the book, get the self-led course, and go from there. But I'm letting you know, like, the book is really good and the book is really useful, and it will really make you think about what you want to do if you're starting out, or how you might want to change things if you've been in it for a while and are just not seeing the results that you want.
Yes.
So thank you, Karen, so much for being on the Pilates Goddess podcast.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful being here with you today. I greatly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. As always, if you love the show, please go over to Apple Podcasts or iTunes and leave a rating and a written review. And you can also leave a rating on Spotify and Podchaser. And once again, all of those links are in the show notes to make it easy for you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.